pushing and pulling. We put these two together because they are essentially just opposite versions of the same motion. We're going to talk about different types of pushing and pulling. We're going to show you a lot of examples of the ways we push and pull, some good foundational positions that we want to get in when we pull, when we push, and then also the difference between horizontal and vertical pushing and pulling. So, just some basics on pushing and pulling. It is all really about the movement of the shoulder and the shoulder blade, which are like best friends, teammates that work together in pretty much all motion. We find that sometimes pushing gives people some pain in their shoulder or it agitates their shoulder. We're going to go over some solutions for that. But basically we want to talk about, we'll start with vertical push, vertical pull, the overhead press. We do this one arm, we do this two arm. There's a lot of different ways to do it. But if we're going to be doing a vertical press, for most people, and some people can get away with this and some people can't, we want to keep those elbows a little bit in front of us and our hands back. So that when we press up, the hand and the wrist almost translates backwards behind the elbow. This is definitely not a good position that we definitely don't want to be in. So we don't want to see this motion. We also don't want to see the shoulders come up towards the ears. We don't want to see the shrug. So the elbows will be in a slightly forward position. We're going to have, the form is going to stay vertical, and we're going to press up. Now again, we talked about the shoulder blades and the shoulder working together. And the big thing with this is as we press up, the shoulder blade, my hand will be the shoulder blade here, will kind of go elevate a little bit and then it will also rotate out. So my shoulder blades reach apart as I come up and pull back down. And notice how I'm traveling in a perfectly vertical path. My arms are slightly in front of me and I pull straight back down. I don't want to get in this position. You'll see this a lot where people are just kind of dropping their hands towards their shoulder. Now, if you look at my elbow, that's not where it goes. Remember, we're always looking, with the joint we're working, we're looking at the next joint, which is the elbow. I know the weight is in the hand, and that's what you see moving up and down. It's all the impressive stuff, but it's not where the hand goes, it's where the elbow goes. You'll see us kind of cut some range of motion short sometimes, do pauses, do holds, all those same principles apply in this. So we can hold overhead, we can hold different positions. Sometimes you'll see us do like third of a rep, and then the last third of a rep. That's all fair game, but the principles all stay the same for all of those. When people have pain of pressing overhead, solutions can always be to bring their hands in. You'll notice as I press up here, I have a little bit of rotation. That takes a little bit of skill, which may be a tough thing for a new person or an inexperienced person to do. Another thing you can do is keep those hands neutral. So if you just change their hand position here, that brings everything closer to the midline of the body, which is going to help a lot. It's about 80-90% of the time, if you can keep everything neutral and closer to the body, it's going to help you. You'll see that when we do our horizontal press as well. So pushing overhead and keeping everything more midline. Some solutions there even still, you could grab one dumbbell and hold the ends of it here, right here. So you can do something like this. A ball works, a kettlebell works. Again, the idea, the principle here is that we're bringing everything closer to the midline, all right? And then maybe that gives them the ability to move back out, or maybe it doesn't and their shoulders kind of jacked up a little bit, but we're not able to fix it here, or they're not willing to have surgery or PT or whatever. But bringing things more to the midline will help a lot. It's also important what happens downstream. So we need to make sure that our weight is even front to back in our foot and we're pushing through the ground. Another thing that might help people is going into a split stance. There's nothing wrong with going into a split stance, especially if we're seeing some issues here in the middle. For instance, if I press up and I do this and I push my ribs and pelvis forward like this, we don't want to do that. Then again, we're moving from our spine, we're not moving from our shoulder as much, so they may have a limited range of motion. Maybe we take them down to one hand and you're able to control that better. You could put your hand here, put a stick here, and then make sure they don't push into that hand. Let them get a feel for it. Let them get kind of the tactile feedback here. So ways to make it simple, or ways to make it a better function for the person is bring it to the middle, maybe take one hand instead of two. Again, and now also in front of you, which is one of the things, I brought the landmine out here. I'm going to be moving us around a little bit because I've got a lot of different things I'm going to show you. The landmine helps a lot. A lot of people with shoulder issue can get away with this motion. It's a lot easier for them to press this way, right? Because you can see how much forward it is, so I don't have to have so much shoulder flexion here, because that maybe gets in people's way or bothers them a little bit. So taking away that shoulder flexion here, but all my principles stay the same. I've got my elbow in, slightly in front of my body. It helps with the dumbbell or kettlebell here. So with the landmine, we can actually make that even more drastic, keep it more in front of them and more towards that midline, which helps a lot. All these principles apply in a pull too. Oftentimes in a pull, you'll see them arch their back like that, and again, move at the spine. We would be talking about a lat pull down. We would be talking about a single arm lat pull down, a high to low cable row, a chin up is another thing to kind of look at, and we'll get into that later on as well. So again, principles of overhead pressing, bring them in, keep that forearm vertical. Another thing that we'll see a lot is people bang their weights together at the top. We don't want to see that. We travel in a vertical path. We're not traveling in a path inward. So when we press straight up, there should be some space up here. It may change a little bitty bit, but we never want to bang them together. You'll see people sit here and do this, and you can see my pattern now is out and in and out, whatever you want to call it. Here, it's not vertical. So we're trying to keep that press as vertical as possible. Same thing with the pull, we don't want to pull out here. When it comes to like a lat pull down, 90% of people are going to want to keep that lat pull down in front of their face and bring that chest up. Now there, we want to have a little extension here at the shoulder blade, because there, we'll start with our shoulder blades, or should be extension to T-spine, because we need to create some space for the shoulder blades. So just like in the press, our shoulder blades are up and apart, and then we want to bring them back down together. So if we create that T-spine extension, not extension here, but extension up here, we can kind of push that chest out into space and give our shoulder blades a little more room, the bottom of our shoulder blades a little more room to come together. So it's all about that glide. When the vertical pull and push, more about kind of the winging of that scapula, how the bottom goes up and out. It elevates slightly and then goes out, the bottom does, okay? And again, those shoulders and those shoulder blades are working together. So that's a lot on vertical pressing. Horizontal pressing, a few more things come into play. So let me grab a bench here real quick. So on this horizontal press, we use a flat bench for this. Things change with the angle, and incline press is going to be a little more forgiving for people, but the principles will still apply. And I'll show you a few special things about the incline press. Whenever we're doing a vertical press, we want our feet ideally to be on the ground. If people want to put them here, that's okay. I like them to be scooted back a little bit so their whole foot is on, because we want to have, again, a solid foundation to push off of. That can be a variable that we manipulate later on to make it more challenging for them, but 99% of the time we're going to have our feet on something solid, because we want to push through the ground, squeeze your glutes, and push your glutes in. You can see how I make that little move there. Push your glutes into the bench or the floor, whatever it may be. We're here. Again, we don't want to bang at the top because our arms are going to travel vertically, okay? We're going to pull down, and we literally bring our shoulder blades a little bit together. The shoulder blades have some slight movement, not a ton of movement here at the bottom, or as they're moving. But you can see my forearms are vertical. I'm pressing straight up. Also notice that my path doesn't drop back here over my head, so I don't want to go like that. Straight down, straight up, straight down, straight up. Pushing through the ground the whole time, especially as we get into heavier weights. That helps you. It makes the exercise harder. It's more exhausting. It sucks more, but it's going to be more effective. You'll be stronger, and we'll get more results from getting a good foundation on pushing through the ground. Now, before we do any pressing, especially horizontally, we want to make sure that we're able to control our body weight in a push-up. And push-ups are fun because people have a million different ways of doing the push-up. In our fundamental session or with the beginners, we always want to start folks, and this is a great, even as they get better at this, a great warm-up is to start them on an incline, okay? So the more vertical we are, the easier a horizontal press is going to be. the more the further we lie down and get closer to the ground, the harder it's going to be. I love doing this on a bar. I'm going to show you on the bench here. The bar just gives us a little more rigidity here. It gets our hands and wrists in a better position. It's not as challenging. We want to be here. We want to be tall. So when we're doing this, we don't want to sit into our feet. You'll see people do this a lot, where they sit into their legs like this, and it takes weight out of their upper body, and it makes it easier to complete the task, so they can do more reps, so they feel stronger, because they can do more, and that's fine. What we want is the results, we want the work. So here, and as I go down, and this rule applies for the press as well, the horizontal press as well. Notice how my elbows are below my shoulders. So they're at about a 45-degree angle from my shoulder and my body, my shoulder and my torso. The elbow's at a 45-degree angle. That's going to apply in our press as well. Spin you back around here. When I do a press and this is flat, incline, whatever, notice where my elbows are. Okay, so all I've done here, the difference between a press and a push-up is change the vector angle. So here, the weight's coming from high and going down versus flipping it over where it's going the opposite direction. Okay? A few other things I want to point out on like that push-up is the middle here is where most of our stress is going to be. It's the furthest away from our anchor, and it's the furthest away from our engine here. So it's in the middle, and we want to watch that we're not moving in the middle and breaking that core engagement. A good push-up should be a challenging core exercise, and your core has to play a part here in holding that middle up, and we don't want to lose that pelvis-rib relationship. That stack is what we call it, okay? So we want to pull ourselves down. When we're going down in the push-up, when we're lowering a weight from an incline or flat press, we want to think about pulling ourselves or pulling the weight into it. So we don't just want to drop it. It's just like here, I don't want to just fall into that push-up. I want to control that motion with a nice 45-degree angle, maybe a little bit closer, maybe a little bit further out, but somewhere near that 45 degrees. I don't want my elbows to be way out here. So I'm going to pull my shoulder blades together, pull my body down low. I'll touch, and I'll drive back out. I'll touch. I'll always want that full range of motion. Pull back out. Notice their head. Is their head in some sort of weird position? That spine should be in a nice neutral position the whole time. Another point that I want to make on these push-ups is how far we come up. You'll see people will go really fast because they're trying to get done with everything. And they'll be here, and they'll cut everything short. They won't emphasize the top part of the push-up, the lockout. There's a little bit of extra love that you can get right here from your serratus group, right? These ribs that kind of attach on that front or interior side of the shoulder blade, and they come through and they attach to the ribs. It's a huge core muscle that's often neglected. It's really important for shoulder health. People talk about their shoulders are achy, and if there's not a lot of damage in there and there's just kind of maybe a chronically low level pain, a lot of times it ties into either poor positioning in their movement, and their body's trying to tell them, hey, I don't like this. And a lot of times it's also a weak serratus here. So I like to cue up in that push-up, coming here, down, and then we push out. And then here I'm not done because my shoulder blades can still come out a little bit more. And that push comes from right here. You can cue them up on that. They don't shrug, they come down and they push out. And I like them to hang out there. Pull yourself in, drive yourself out and get that little round in the upper back, because that activates that serratus group. So try to push yourself a little bit away. You can cue them up by saying, put your hand here and say, push off my fingers, and I can do that extra little bit to get them off there. That serratus group is huge, and it ties into the complete health of the shoulder, the complete strength of the shoulder. It will help them engage their core. The serratus is technically a core muscle. It attaches to the shoulder blade, so it is part of, or excuse me, attached to the rib, so it's part of that core musculature. So it's also one of those little things that people don't know about and neglect, that we can really make a difference in showing them that we're doing things a little bit different here, that you're able to coach them through some weaknesses and some overlooked things in their training program. So really emphasize that full lockout. Again, not just at the elbow, but here at the shoulder, pushing from right here. Some people you'll see will try to shrug that instead of pushing from here. Cue them up, coach them up on that. Another thing that we see in push-ups that can give people issues are their wrists. Again, we like to use the barbell. When we set that barbell up on either the bar rack here, higher it is, the easier it'll be, lower it is, the harder it'll be. We use that Smith machine in there a lot of times, and that's a very easy adjustment. Say they're really good at push-ups, they can do them, but they bother my wrist. Man, they just bother my wrist. I've got small weights here. I actually prefer really heavy weights here because these things, even though they're hexagonal, will tend to roll a little bit. We want to be here, just like this. And holding on to dumbbells, we also have the little risers over there. This will help a lot of wrist pain. So if it bothers their wrist, being in this position, no problem at all. Try this position right here. If they need to be inclined, this is when to use a barbell. The same principle here. And again, make sure I'm not sitting back on my feet. I want to be pitched over top. And look where this is. This is underneath my shoulder. It's not underneath my face. Don't rely on visual feedback here, because visual feedback, you can see this is even with my face, and visually it looks like they're under me, but look where my position is. It's terrible. It's awful. Okay? So be here. Hands underneath your shoulders. Pull yourself down. Drive up. Not leading with the belly. Leading with the chest. Little variations of push-ups we may do. We can change up tempo. We can, there's some games we play. We have a push-up game that we play. It's like an every minute, on the minute thing. Another fun little deal we'll do are eccentric push-ups where we go down super slow. This is a great way to teach proper form. We'll go down 5, 4, and we're in an elevator. We're not going from top to bottom. We're going real slow. We set ourselves all the way down and then reset. We don't even worry about that concentric phase. We overload in that eccentric phase, and that's a great way to teach the push-up form. That's a great way to build up the push-up. So say they can't get very many and they want to, or they're at a point where they're going from a moderate incline to a lower incline or an incline to the floor. It's a great way to build up some good strength for that. It's a great way to transition them from maybe they can get 3 or 4 push-ups and they can't get 6 or 8. So do your 4 and then add a couple and then finish out eccentric. So these are all little ways that you can sprinkle that in there for the horizontal push. I think that kind of about covers it. We've got our wrist bothers us, our shoulders. If the shoulders are bothering, again, try to bring those elbows in closer to the midline. The closer, once you get past 45 degrees, the closer you get, they're going to get a lot harder. So we may need to bump that incline up. But don't be afraid if we need to regress it a little bit. This upper body stuff is a lot harder than lower body stuff. You don't have nearly as many big muscles, especially when it comes to ladies. You can don't be afraid to regress it a little bit, and it's not bad to early in the workout or early in your sets go for something aggressive, go for something hard, and then regress it. So their 4th set, maybe they finish out on an incline, even though they started on a regular because they're fatigued. So that's a lot of what we'll do for the horizontal pressing. So we've got that, we've got vertical pressing covered. Let's talk about rowing. So in our rows, we talked about a little bit of vertical rowing. In our horizontal rows, there's a lot of different variations that we'll use, but this is all about the shoulder and the shoulder blade coming towards the spine. So as I row, I'm pulling that shoulder blade back towards the spine. So the shoulder blade is kind of going in towards the spine and the shoulders moving back. One of the things that happens a lot in horizontal rowing is that shoulder will dump forward like that. And they get in the habit of bringing their hand towards their body. We want to bring the hand towards the hip, but we want to bring the shoulder back. If we're doing this single arm, there can even be a little rotation. It's a little bit of a cheat. It's not perfect, but it gets us where we want to go if we open that rib cage up. So as I pull back with this arm, I can rotate the ribs towards you a little bit, and that helps get that shoulder blade back towards that spine even more, especially that bottom part of the shoulder blade. We do horizontal rows in a billion different ways. We can use the cable. I'll show you some power that we do here in a minute. We use different supports. We use different tempos. We'll use a lot of isometric holds. So we'll start off with the most basic in this lawnmower row. I want to be pressing away with that serratus group, so that group we talked about right here. Pressing away, shoulder over top of hand, and and I'm gonna pull that shoulder blade back here. And you can see that little bit of rotation I have towards you. My push here helps me rotate and open here, which gets me that full range of motion on that row. If we do a hold, we'll come here. We use these a lot at the end of our sets or as a superset, doing a hold here. And I'm not trying to bring my hand to my body. I'm trying to bring kind of my hand to my hip, but more so that shoulder and shoulder blade back in space, holding here. And so we'll hold that here. You don't want to see the hand here because I've lost my forearm position. That forearm is just merely the connection to the weight and resistance, okay? If I wanted to stand up on that horizontal and go here, I can do that as well, but the same principle applies. Now you see that horizontal translation to shoulder. It starts here, a little bit forward, and it comes back like this. It's not this motion. This is what we see a lot of shrug. And look, my elbow and shoulder are still in front. They haven't gone anywhere. I've just brought my hand closer to my body. Okay? So I can flare up elbows, I can flare up shoulders as well. But really, the biggest thing is we're not getting anything out of it. We're not getting nearly as much out of it. So we'll use dumbbells, we'll use kettlebells, we'll use the cables a lot. When we get into the barbell, our foundation for our lower body becomes much more important. So if we do some sort of bent over row or hinged row, and we don't have the support of a bench or the ground, or doing an incline row on the bench, our foundation of our lower body is super important. So I'm going to show you a few variations that we'll use. We'll use a bent over row here with kettlebells or dumbbells. We will sometimes use, we'll get that V-bar. Of course, I didn't get it out. We'll use that V-bar here on a landmine. Put this up and do our row here. We'll use a full barbell and do a pendulum row. There'll be plates on this, obviously, and doing our row here with different tempos, different rep schemes, things like that. But I want you to notice in all three of those positions, I had a good squat. I got my body low. My shins have a positive shin angle. They're a little bit forward, so my weight's still balanced right here in my foot. Okay, whether I'm here right next to each other, whether I'm here on that landmine row, I have a positive shin angle and I'm loading my legs and my glutes here, okay? This, people are gonna tell you that's very exhausting. Of course it is, you're using all the muscles in your body, which gets us a lot of benefit, gets us a lot of pluses there, and it builds a foundation. We don't want them to feel this in the low back. You'll see people get in the rows and they'll be like this, and that is all there in my low back. They'll put kettlebells and they're rowing like this, or they'll be in we'll have them do a row hold, and they shrug their shoulders and they hold on like this. We've got to get that good foundation here. If their feet are wider, it's a little bit easier to get in that position. Gives their hips a little more room to move. And so even if the programming calls for their feet to be together, if they literally can't get into that position, go ahead and put their feet out wide. Their hands can just be inside of their feet. If they look better, if their shoulders are back, they're loading their legs, and they're not loading their low back, it's a much better position to be in than feet together, holding here, doing something goofy like that. You'll have a lot of people with different preferences. So some people on those pendulum rows hate using a barbell. It hits their shin. They don't really have the coordination to do it. That's fine. Use a kettlebell, use a dumbbell. You get away with a lot more, just like we did in the pressing, just like we did in squats and things like that. It's easier and you get more forgiveness from your joints if you use a kettlebell and dumbbell. It's easier to load a barbell. So that's kind of the trade-off, is you can load a lot of weight on a barbell a lot easier and handle it a lot easier than if you're using a dumbbell or kettlebell. Your grip strength comes more into play there. So different variations of rows that we'll use. A lot of it in the foundation is going to be a split stance versus a bilateral stance. Especially with athletes, you'll see us do rows here in a split stance, sitting low. But again, look, I'm low in my stance. I'm not here doing a row. I want my butt low, positive shin angle. I mean, these things all just stay the same. I've got that positive shin angle, and I'm loading my legs. You'll see us do rows here, like this, you'll see us do a really cool one called a reach row, where we reach out in front of us, and that really gets that big arc. We're trying to pull that hip back. You'll see us alternate. You'll see us do a hold on one side and row this. You'll see us do these two together. If we do a rest, we want to make sure we're grabbing the top corner of that kettlebell, not on this side, but on this side here. And then you can see how it's set on the edge there. They don't need to be here. We can set on that edge. This is forcing them to be in athletic position, have a little bit less stability in their foundation. So it's a good cross between a very stable position, a more or less stable position, to an even less stable position. And sometimes we'll even do rows where we'll be on one leg, doing a row like this. But my principles stay the same. Positive shin angle, loading that leg. We may do that with a kettlebell, we may do that with a landmine. You'll see us with the athletes a lot use the lower body and the upper body together. We use this split stance row a ton. We have that positive shin angle, and then I row and stand up out of it. I've also, in this example, added a lot more of that rotation because we're really going for power. So we're adding the element of speed with the weight, with the strength. We're adding speed to it to get more power. So I'm making that rotation an even bigger emphasis. Talked about pushing through the bench there when we do that single arm lawnmower row. If I'm on a cable here, I use that opposite arm to get, it's kind of almost like a false punch to get even more rotation. So I've opened up completely to you, and then I close it back down. So those arms working in opposition, which we can do on presses. You'll see us do it on an incline press sometime. This is a really big thing for athletes, especially rotational athletes, because we're always trying to teach them how to use their body as a unit, the way it's designed, more so than just isolating one little body part, isolating a row position. Not that that's bad, but that's just something that the athletes kind of need, is using their lower body, their upper body together, learning how to turn their upper body without turning their lower body, but still pushing off their lower body. That pretty much covers it for horizontal rowing. Again, principles you'll see, pauses, okay? You can see slow eccentrics, as soon as we'll let them down. We'll superset a lot of things, so you may do a row, then do an isometric row hold, okay? So you'll see a lot of different things like that. The last thing I want to touch on is chin-ups, because this is everybody's favorite, so kind of reposition this to show you some different variations of chin-ups that we'll do. Chin-ups are a tough one. A lot of people have a lot of struggle with this, which is fine. We always have the assist machine in there, which is fantastic for giving us a limited amount of assistance. I don't love the band to do this because I've seen the band slip off people's feet and ruin their themness. And that's no fun either. And then the other thing is oftentimes we don't need assistance maybe for 1 or 2 reps, but maybe the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th rep we do need assistance for. And then with the assist in there, with the bands, we don't have the ability to kind of manipulate that very quickly or easily. At least with the assist in there, we could jump off real quick, switch to more or less weight, and then jump right back on. That's not bad. The band is the band. It's always going to be the band. For chin-ups, just a quick fundamental thing. A chin-up is going to be an underhand grip. A pull-up is an overhand grip. And then this right here, where the palms are facing each other, neutral grip. Neutral grip is the easiest. Chin-up's the next easiest. And then pull-ups are the toughest. We do a pull-up. With Gen Pop people, we want to keep that in a little tighter, especially folks that have turned the magic age of 30, 35. Their shoulders have got miles on them. They're a little beat up. So the closer, again, you bring things to the middle, the happier their shoulders are. Okay? The other thing I like to do is eccentrics there, so they can use the block or use their legs to help themselves up and control down. Again, the same motion. That shoulder blade is coming up as well as the biceps working there and the chin up. You get less biceps here, which is what makes this a lot harder. But you can see the idea here of giving yourself a little boost and then a good eccentric. This is also great if we're able to get 1 or 2 chin-ups, or we just need a little bit of help. You can give yourself a little limited boost. And obviously, look, you're policing yourself. Give yourself as little help as you need, but as much help
as you need. So if I'm doing here, I don't just want to jump up and do that if I'm working on that concentric phase. Give yourself a little bump, come back down. A little bump, and come back down. And just make sure, and it's a timing and a skill and a coordination thing, that the pull happens as the push is happening. They don't want to necessarily jump up and catch themselves up there. They want to give themselves a little assistance from the legs. There's a lot of different pull-up programs, especially the app. You can talk to Matt about that too, about different strategies to getting their first chin-up or pull-up, but encourage people to try. If you can identify their weak spot, whether it's all the way down here, getting started. Some people are really weak there, some people are really strong. The other place people weak is the very top. So the very top might be the hardest thing to do. Isometrics there are good. So they can get a little bit of a bend here and hold that position. Tough to do. Other people may need more work up here and they hold that position. But isometrics are the fundamental spot where if they're the weakest or the least experienced or they struggle the most, however it is, they want to start there they want to start at that point with an isometric. Then you can add a little assisted movement, or add eccentrics where you get them into the end position and make them lower out of it or press out of it if it's the push-up. And then of course they'll be able to use assisted concentric as well. And again, the programming there gets kind of funny and a little unique depending on who the person is and where their struggles are. But the principles remain the same. Vertical, that shoulder blade goes up a little bit and then the bottom travels out, and then it comes back together towards the spine. And that all has to happen as that glenohumeral joint, as that humerus moves in that shoulder capsule, okay? That sums it up pretty good for the basics on pushing and pulling. Just general training principles apply, super intricate here. So start them off in an easy place. If nothing else, you've warmed them up really, really well. You can progress them on in that session, or then you can have a strategy to progress them on later on as they go in the weeks ahead, okay? If nothing else, if you start them off too easy, they're getting a good warm up in, and then you can see, oh, hey, wow, you just knocked out 10 incline push-ups and you didn't even get your heart rate up. So you can lower the incline or say, hey, we're gonna go straight to the floor. Or then you know, hey, okay, you're gonna probably be ready for handling some weights. Real quick basics on pressing that I forgot. The safety of manipulating the weights and how we're handling the weights here. How do we get in and out of bench press, chest press, whatever you want to call it. So we would want to start here. I'm definitely not in focus here. So we want to start here with the weights on your knees, and we're going to do what we call rock and roll, where we pop up, lie back here, and then I'm in position. And I do all my reps, 1001, 1002, and then I get here. First off, I'm exhausted. I'm not going to be able to get another press, so I can't sit up. That's a lot of weight. I do not ever want to go like this. That puts way too much. You're getting a long lever arm there, and we don't want to overstress the weak muscles and the biceps and the tendons and the elbow and all that fun stuff. So I'll bring the weight to my body, up, like that. Make sure they clear their arms. Your job is to make sure that nobody gets their foot over their hip. Maybe we're doing a single arm press here, and now we're gonna switch hands. I never wanna switch up here, because inevitably someone's gonna mishandle it, and dumbbells or kettlebells or really anything to the face is never a good plan. So I do my presses, I'm ready to switch hands, I bring it to the body, and I just kind of roll it over here. I can use my other hand to help me up, and then I go down and up here. You can always use that offhand if you're doing a single arm exercise on the landmine, on a dumbbell. So I'm struggling, it's hard, and I can always save myself with that other hand. It's also a way to spot them as well. When we're spotting, we don't want to spot here at the elbows. If I'm spotting somebody here at the elbows and I push up on that elbow, boom, again, dumbbells to faces, never a good plan. I spot them here at the wrist so I can press straight up. My spot's here at the wrist, and I can give them a little assistance. It's not spotting them to save them, it's spotting them to give them a little assistance. So don't just take the weight from them. Help give them just as little assistance as they need, just like we do on those chins. As little assistance as they need to complete the rep. Okay, and then again, They'll come down, they'll ditch the weight right there like that. That goes true for incline, that goes true for flat press, whatever angle you're at. That's just some quick safety points. So spot at the wrists, never spot at the elbows, and help them get in and out of that position well. Like little tricks like that go a long way. No one's ever shown any of these folks that. It may be rudimentary for you, but no one's ever shown them that, and that's what we're here for, to keep people safe, keep them healthy, and then make some progress as well. So that's kind of the basics of the push-pull segment. Again, there's probably gonna be a lot of questions on this one because it's a little complicated. Basics, the shoulder and shoulder blade are working together. They are translating around that rib cage, okay? We always wanna move the shoulder and shoulder blade forward and back in space. We're not rounding or rolling that shoulder. We're not bringing the weight to our body. We're bringing our shoulder blades together or apart. In the pressing movements, remember that serratus? Remember, bringing things to the midline makes it easier for our shoulder. And remember, we want to be a little bit in front of our ribs. We never want that elbow behind the hand. As we go up, some people with great mobility, the hand can go behind the elbow a little bit. And we never want the movement to happen here from the low back and the spine, which you'll see by the rib cage flaring up and the pelvis dumping down. Our foundation, just like every other movement we've discussed, is everything. So when we're in a big, heavy movement, especially with a barbell, landmine, dumbbells, whatever, here, our butt is down, our shin is forward, and we're loading our legs. Here, here, here. I'm not up in any of those positions, okay? When we're doing those rows, we don't want the rows to be forward unless we're in that split stance pulling backward. We don't want any sort of bent over vertical row or horizontal row in that vertical plane right here to be away from the body. We want it to be close to our body. I'm sure there's a lot of things that I left out. Please, please, please ask questions, but that should kind of get the basics of pushing and pulling.